friend? Who's the little girlie by your side? I've seen you with a girl or two. Oh, I am surprised at you. Hello, stop your little game. Don't you think your ways you ought to mend? You're not the girl I saw you with at Brighton. Who's your lady friend?
Amazing.
Oh,
Bravo.
That's our intro, actually.
Have we started this program?
You've just started it. That was the best intro anyone could do.
I'm being crushed by my over exuberant son.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Moon Tea Podcast. Today we have on Mr. Berryman, the man himself, the father of Hugh. His name is also Hugh, so is he Hugh the First?
No. I'm not Hugh the First. There were Hughs before me. Hugh's a very ancient Anglo-Saxon name, and I think it's more Norman French, but it's been around, I think, in Europe, Hugh and all kinds of alternatives. A lot of people get on they're sort of selling things, and they say, "Is that huge?" So I don't know whether I should be pleased with the idea that they think I may be huge or not. So I tend to want to correct them and say, no, I'm not huge. And then I say, I'm Hugo, Hugh, whatever. Yeah. So then, But so I'm not the first. And I hope I'm not the second last.
I think there are a lot of other Hughs, although Hugh is saved on my phone as just Hugh. So
yes.
So yeah, I guess I don't know too many Hughs, but thanks for coming on today, Mr. Berryman. It's an honor.
We haven't agreed on the payment yet.
we can discuss after.
No. I think it should be discussed beforehand. But however, for the time being, I let it lie. I trust my son, and he seems to trust you. So, there we are.
Oh, sorry, everyone.
But besides, I'm not in need of any immediate money, so I can wait a while.
That is good to hear, and also we're also spending more money than we are making this podcast. If anyone's curious, we have zero revenue, and we spend money on cloud storage and all that stuff.
So it's pride that makes you money, not avarice. That makes you do this, not avarice.
We're just doing it for fun. It's something to do. We get to interview very cool people like yourself.
Yes.
And just see what happens.
Yes. What about hot people?
Well, let's dig into it. What about hot people?
Yeah, and maybe it's interesting to have a lukewarm person and see what you can draw out of him or her. Have you had any women on the program?
Yes, we have.
Who have you had?
Who have we had here?
She's the amazing resume writer. I'm trying to remember the name.
Oh yeah. So we've had Heather. We've had JT, Jackie Tran. We've had I don't know. I'm sure we've had other women. Although I guess
probably the only two so far, actually.
You just pick them off the street, do
you? I mean, if that was an option, then we might entertain it. Maybe we do need more women. I don't know. Whatever.
If you want to come on, woman, just email us at moonteapodcast.com.
If you're a man too, then feel free to email us.
If you're a man, sucks to suck. Sorry.
No, we'll take you. We'll take anyone. By the way, had a alumni like newsletter thing, and people usually give updates once in a while. And my update was something along the lines of, "Hey everyone, I moved to New York City. This is what I'm doing for work. Also, I started a podcast, and we really need guests. So if you want to be a guest, please email me. I'm serious."
This
It's
is
just like
Yes.
Need guests.
Yeah, so John went to Occidental and they had an alumni mailer, I suspect.
Sure.
And that was the mailer he did.
Mhm. What's in that thing you keep drinking?
oh, it's just sparkling water.
Ah, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, shall we begin? What shall we talk to Dad about today? Basically, the way I see it is Dad has this special skill and probably has the world record of talking the most hind legs off of donkeys yet far in history. So thus, I think we can basically name any topic that might be curious one way or another.
Yes.
And we'll just literally have ourselves an hour plus of combo.
Truth doesn't matter, does it? Truth.
We do not have any fact checkers on the show, so you're the historian and we're not. So I think you're at an advantage here.
No, I mean, yes, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Well, fire away, as they say.
Well, Mr. Berryman, do you want to introduce yourself to our guests and talk a little bit about who you are and your background?
Well, I'm male. I'm 92. I'm Anglo-Saxon English. I'm an expatriate, I guess. I'm living here to educate people, and enjoy the hot weather. I enjoyed living in England. It's very good for the skin. There's some damp climate, surprisingly enough. So, and also I have lots of friends there. Unfortunately, when you get to 92, as you'll find out when you do, that your friends are dying around about you, So that's a great tragedy. So life is not all playing around in the haystack these days, One misses friends coming to see you, you coming to see friends, and so on. So, however, I'm very lucky to have a daughter who's beautiful, intelligent, and kind, and a wife who's amazing. And there's another chap around too. But I won't say anything about him because he's so conceited that he will speak for himself. That he may interrupt me at any moment. So there I am. I'm betwixt and between.
Amazing. Amazing. Do you want to, I'm sure you have so many amazing stories just in your life from, I heard a little bit from Hugh's mom, Mrs. Berryman, and just a story about how you were a professor and then you were a priest, and then you were like teaching at different universities for a while. Like, where do you want to start and where do you want to dig in? Like, we're interested in hearing you talk about whatever you want to reminisce about.
Well, there's so much to talk about, and it depends upon the people I'm talking to, whether have I got to show off or how? I'm not talking about you two, but have you to interest them? Are you concerned about them? Or are you concerned about what they think about you? So would you say that people are generally self-conscious and they're thinking about themselves when they're with other people, or they're thinking about other people? Or should it be a mixture? Or should one be an egoist? Or should one be a philanthropist? It doesn't really matter where one teaches, as long as one teaches, I guess, the truth as one sees it. If there is such a thing as truth, or what is truth, said, that Pilate, and did not wait for an answer, apparently. That was Francis Bacon, an English chap. I never knew what it meant, but, it's nice to have quotations, particularly quotations that are so mysterious that other people can't understand them because you can't understand them yourself. I mean, Louis XIV went around saying, "L'État, c'est moi," the state, that's me, and it was. What a terrible state he was for this fat old chap who dominated society, bringing up things like, these are just ideas, historical ideas that pop into mind that are basic, like, the divine right of kings. Where does authority come from? So basically, I'm a philosopher type, thinking, getting other people to do the talking, and me to say, yes, no, that sounds a good idea. Yes. Would you say that again? You can look at it from another point of view, and look at the other students. What do you think of this chap? Is he on the right track or not? And they say, what's the right track? So what is the right track? I was listening to someone last week, I think, who was on your marvelous program, and he was quoting something about what was it, Hugh? Traveling, you're aiming towards not progress. Eventually,
passion, but
yeah,
about curiosities,
yes.
following your curiosity.
No, the point is, yes, he spoke most about follow your passion, and we were saying that's different at different times. For instance, if you've got a 10-year-old son who wants to play baseball, you're sitting with the crowd there, you're howling, for him to be successful, and that's your passion at the time,
Just to correct, I was the one that mentioned passion, and then sorry, I totally forgot his name, because when Dad was in the hospital.
We're talking about
Ed the First.
Ed the First.
Yes. So Ed the First was very into more progressive take, I suppose, and follow your curiosities rather than passions.
Yeah, I thought that was a very good idea. The idea of follow your curiosity, because when I sit in one of my two favorite chairs, the one that actually my dear wife Lillian bought me when we were married, and it still works very well. I sit there, I'm surrounded by a pretty big library, which you can't see here, which kind of grew up over different periods of different teachings at different times. And so they said, why are you happy living by yourself with your friends dead and so on? I said, I'm surrounded by my friends. I pick one up and I put it down. This one leads me to another one, and so on and so forth. So the reason why is because I'm following my curiosity. You feel this world is an enigma. It's mysterious. It's been around a long time. Or that's a debatable point. According to a lot of religions, it's actually started at a particular time. Like I think Bishop Usher, who was a Church of England bishop living in Ireland, who said that the world began at 9 o'clock in the morning, on 4004 BC. He worked it out by looking at the genealogy of Methuselah was 960, and Noah was 620, and Matthias and all these other people. He added them all together, and he was taking the Bible literally. And how on earth the author of this particular, well, it was Genesis, so we don't know who wrote it, how he got all these facts together or not. But so that's a question about the world. You might say that you may or may not have to talk about in philosophy, but it's a natural question we ask. Was the world created, or did the world evolve? And then the whole question of whether they can juxtapose or not, and whether you can have a creator God who is actually a creator God in the sense of he's allowing evolution to develop, or has he to start anything? In fact, the whole question of starting and stopping and limits, what is beyond? Where do you come to a barrier for, say, the universe? And what's beyond the barrier? I mean, what is a barrier describing, So beyond the barrier must there be something else. It may, what is space, or beyond space, beyond these marvelous telescopes, what they're able to discover these days is only partially piercing through the mystery of creation. There you see, I've used the word, of being, I should have said, so you can get people coming to class who are natural atheists, or natural religious people, or people who are religious with a fanatical belief in one religion, and the thing is everybody religious, or is religion, for instance, I'm just going on, with the stream of consciousness. That's what we're practicing at the moment. And so, is religion a good thing or a bad thing? Is it the most natural thing in the world? And what does it mean? It's been, it's been a source of inspiration or desperation for people over centuries. Is the God of the gods threatening God, or is he a saving God, or saving gods? If they're many, or they're in conflict, and why? And you have, the Greeks saying one thing, the Romans and the Norman, the Norsemen up in Scandinavia, like the days of the week. Monday, where does Monday come from? Where does Tuesday come from? That's a Scandinavian god. Where does Wednesday come from? Woden, that's a Scandinavian god. Thursday, Thor, the great god Thor. Friday, Fry, another Scandinavian god. Saturday, Saturn, and Sunday, the sun, and Monday, the moon. So you've got a combination there of natural and national, you might say, that developed. And it developed what? We're already taking for granted something here. We're taking the week for granted. Where does the idea of a week come in? Now, in Genesis, you get God creating the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. What does that mean for God to rest? But anyway, the idea is 7 already. Now, where does that come from? Does it actually come from the fact you've got around about 1,000, you've got a temple, you've got priests, and it's developing from them and then being thrown backwards? So you come to the whole question of history. Is history truth? Why does one want a history? Is history something that makes you hate people, or have allies? One of the phrases that I quoted once to my wife Lillian was, England has no permanent friends. England has no permanent enemies. England has permanent interests. And it's, what do you think, John or Hugh, of that? Would you apply that to your own life as well? That you have no permanent friends, you have no permanent enemies, but you have permanent interests. And are they family interests? Are they personal interests? Are they national interests? Are they patriotic interests? Like, you fight for God in your country, or you fight for your family, or you fight for your honor, or you fight for revenge or whatever. What do you think, John? That's kind of.
I would say I have permanent family for sure. Can't really change that. And yeah, I agree. Friends come and go, and yeah, I have it's kind of like levels. Like I have a few very close friends, and then I have a few like friends that, or I have a lot more friends who, if I'm near them or if I see them a lot, then I'm happy to hang out, happy to plan things together. And then I have friends who I do not see often, but I'll still text them or call them once in a while. And yeah, there's definitely a shared theme of I'm working towards something, or I'm I have these interests, and usually it's the case that I make friends with other people who have the same interests and who are working towards similar things. Just it's easy to have that in common, and seems like we're helping each other out. What
So
do you think, Hugh?
the only constant thing is in all you've just been saying, and it's probably what anybody of common sense would say, is the use of the word I. I am, So are you basing friendship and interests and so on I? Or are you a philanthropist type or just a family man? What would you say, Hugh? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Let's see. Well, for me, that question, that statement by the English, because it's not the first time I've heard it,
No, Mummy quotes it all the time.
has been something that I actually struggle with in many ways. I think at a nationalistic point of view, at a governmental scale, a nation state and possibly a state level, it could be of it makes a lot of sense, especially since all the history that England has been through, and then World War II, and Churchill quoting that we shall fight them on the anywhere, right? Yeah, dot dot dot,
On the shores
and on the mountains in the air, right? And so I think with all of that comes a quote that is so almost self-driven, because it was a very survivalistic mindset and background. I do think that if at an individual level that quote is applied, I do worry about the perceptions and the true relationships that people can form. I think and wonder, like I once heard this one quote that I think resonates and is similar, that is of interest, where someone mentioned, and it is from an I point of view though, is at a family level, one is a communist. At a friend level, one is a socialist. At a local governmental level, one is a Democrat. At a state level, one is a Republican. At a federal level, one is a libertarian. And so I've always thought that was a very interesting progression.
Very interesting. I've never heard of it before, but it sounds marvelous.
Yeah, I've always liked that one, to be honest. So I don't know what I am, to be honest. So there's a lot of different tiers to it.
Yeah, right. Well, the point is you're evolving, etc. And sort of, what's the difference between a friendship, between a friend and a lover, or a friend and an acquaintance, or a friend or someone that you're cultivating for self-interest, or someone you may be cultivating for fear, power. That would bring into the whole subject of, power. I mean, you may have a friend, you may make a friend out of compassion, out of sympathy, a lonely person. I remember when I was a kid at school, I went away to a boarding school because the English like to get rid of their kids and so on, send them away to school. And so, we had a class, and in my class there was a chap called Stephen Perry, a very looking, quite intelligent, good sportsman, and so on and so forth. And they all ganged up on him, somehow or other. And I'm a natural kind of defender, so I went and broke into the whole thing, which was happening regularly, defending. And so some people are natural egoists and back away from things. some people put their foot in it all the time, and some people do it for good reasons, and some people for bad reasons, But one of the reasons was not that I wanted to be his friend particularly, but I had a sense of outrage, a kind of sense of injustice, a sense of sort of this is mob approach to things. It's got nothing to do with being a decent human being. And we're all supposed to be, it was a man's school, a boys' school. We're all supposed to be decent human beings learning this. You might say, how do you learn to be a decent human being if you've got an alcoholic father, if you've got an aggressive mother, if you've got brothers and sisters who are fighting each other and trying to get the better, they want the better bedroom. they want you to do the dishes, instead of them. They want to go out and leave you in to look after the cat, So self-interest, this business of I, is I the basic thing in life? Or is there something beyond I? I mean, is one of the great things being compassionate, going beyond yourself, being sympathetic, being philanthropic? What are we here for? It would be brought into the question. Are we here for ourselves? That sounds, are we just here, and we're going to go? And then the whole question of continuity in life and what's it all about? This little planet. Are we as we're a planet, with a moon and so on and so forth, in a galaxy, in a great system and so on? It sounds so trivial, and yet we make ourselves very important, and that's one of the things about the I, do we want to be important? For what reason? Do we want to be a discoverer? And then, do we want to be an adventurer or a conqueror? For instance, there was Alexander the Great, as he's called, living in Macedon at the edge of Greece. And he goes across the Mediterranean and starts fighting there. And then he goes on and on. He goes to Afghanistan for 2 years. He sort of ran into trouble there. And he's pushing on beyond the Indus. He wants to get to the ends of the world. I mean, what's it got to do with him, what's happening in India or Arabia? He could have been quite happy in Macedonia, couldn't he? What was driving him? We all think of him as a hero, I guess, as a conqueror, as an outstanding man. Was he a good man or was he a bad man? And that brings up the question of good and bad. What is good and what is bad? And, how does bad and good come into the world? Because we have most religions that some are polytheistic. They have lots of gods, and others have a one God who is a jealous God in Genesis and so on and so forth. What can we say about our relationship with him? And what can we say about his relationship with us? Why were we created? If we were created, or even if he helped in the creation and so on and so forth, what was his purpose? Was he unhappy? And do we make him unhappy? In the book of Genesis and Exodus and the Korah, as the Jewish people use as their basic religious doctrine, God is in and out of being angry with people all the time. He's the Sabbath, he's the God of the war, and so on and so forth. He's defending or pushing forward the fortunes of this tiny little people that he's decided to take over and run. And not only that, he says, you've got to knock everybody else out. Me, I am who I am, which actually is what Moses found as the definition of him. I am, what does he want us for? So there we are. The mystery of being alive is really one of the questions that you could teach in philosophy, and now what are you teaching? Are you trying to tell them your way of thinking, Are you trying to explain to them all the different ways of thinking? Or are you just helping them to think? You know, what's the important thing? To let people know a lot of things, or to let people learn a lot of things, or to let people discover a lot of things? What's the purpose of a teacher? Is a teacher doing it for I, or is he doing it for thou? Which is why we get married as well, And I think kids are either a mistake or just one of the things that happen because of love, So love has its consequences. Okay, that's rambling for a moment or two. Pick it up or kick it out of the window, or, one of the two of you can go into a soliloquy.
I want to hear Hugh's soliloquy.
About what?
I don't know.
I.
Nothing really from my side right now. Let's see if I can start a topic at any time. Anything you're interested in, John? I mean, I get dad all the time, 24/7. So
yeah, I know. Anyway,
I'm sorry for you. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that was a lot. That was a lot to take in. I think I need a moment. Just at one point we were asking like, what is history? And I was like, whoa, it's a heavy topic for like right after a work day, right after getting a haircut. I'm just like, it's like, what is the purpose of a teacher? Like, wow. And yeah, I mean, yeah, this is great. Mr. Berryman, what is a book that really shaped you and that you really enjoyed?
I was going to say before you asked that question, sort of history is the story told by the conqueror on the whole. Gradually, because of the way we're discovering the past, we're discovering the history. You might say that's one of the big problems today in American schools or in American theorists about what should be described as the American history, and it's causing a lot of debate and so on and so forth. Should we tell the truth about ourselves? Should we tell the truth about our families? Should we tell the truth about our society, and so on and so forth? Where does all this come out of? I don't think there's any one defining book that I would say was a defining book, though I first went to school at the age of 5. And I remember my first book was The Cat Sat on the Mat, and so I think one of the first things that are of use to you is something that will give you the tools for future learning. So you just kind of need a book before the book, like the Indian idea of the universe. The universe is standing on an elephant that's standing on so on and so forth, and they go down and down. And so if we go down and down, looking for origins in ourselves, the thing, chacun son goût, everyone to his own taste. So this book is beneficial to some people and enlightening and exasperating to other people. Maybe one of the books you might want to read would be a book about religion, or a book about reason, or a book about love. I read, for what it's worth, just yesterday that in Spain, which has got a different culture from the rest of Europe, really, because of its history, but it's deeply Catholic and Counter-Reformation and old-fashioned Catholic and so on, like the Vatican. Old chaps are too, for that matter. And so this author was saying, he was quoting someone else that I didn't know about previously, and he said, sort of um, the Protestants use their reason and the Catholics use their heart. Now, so it's a very interesting idea. So you might say, with regard to the book that influences you, you might take a simple book like Voltaire. He writes Candide, and that the Pangloss thinks this is the best of all possible worlds. So would you like a book that makes you optimistic about the world or pessimistic about the world? I mean, that's an important outlook on life, whether you're generally pessimistic or optimistic. You can be pessimistic or optimistic about your son or something, or your daughter, and you might discourage them and encourage them. And that has a great effect on them. I'm getting off the subject there, but the point is that books can, hopefully the books that influence me are books that enlightened you to help you understand. So I'm surrounded by a library of history and philosophy and religion and bits of anthropology and novels. A novel can be very enlightening, really, because that brings in the idea of imagination. Is imagination more important than reality? Does reality anchor you in the present, and imagination help you jump into the future? Is it imagination that keeps the world getting better, or are we better by following tradition? That's one of the great conflicts, being a traditionalist or being or putting a name on people, like the Republicans are talking about the ideas of the present government as socialist and so on and so forth. Then you understand the word socialism. In Europe, it's welfare state. Welfare state means that you're looking after people from the cradle to the grave, but they have to pay taxes. Now here, which is more important, taxes or helping people? And they say, no, let him look after himself, So, Cain says to God, am I my brother's keeper? Let him go his own way. Or, should we go beyond our families? Is being patriotic a good thing? So you may write a book, you read a book about, things like patriotism, and that helps to build up an attitude of mind of your own. So I don't think one book should be a defining book. I think it should be an amalgam of things that help you to have an understanding of the world and a kind of code to go by, so you're not changing your mind with every passing moment. So maybe one of the big phrases, thoughts that should come out of all that you're reading is be yourself.
But then the next question is, what is self?
Well, it's about time you gave an answer.
It's about time you tell me the answer.
Oh, you see, so he's trying to say that I haven't educated him properly. Sort of be yourself is it's impossible for anyone else to give you the answer. You can only be yourself. So it's up to you to learn the answer to that question you just asked. That's one of the problems, be yourself is a sort of protective thing against people trying to make you into something else. Should you be content to be made into a model of something? What do you think, John? Be yourself is very important to you, isn't it?
I'm just not sure exactly what it means to be yourself. it's thrown around a lot, where if someone's like, oh, I'm nervous for this like first date, and then someone says, just be yourself. Or a funny scenario that um I laughed about one time. Imagine Brad Pitt telling a group of guys, just be yourself.
Yeah. So
um
go on.
yeah, I just, it's not clear to me what that means. And I think maybe being authentic, like that means something to me. Being myself, that's something that I'm not totally sure how to like internalize what is being said there.
Yeah. So being yourself could be a very selfish thing, indeed. Now, and your general acquaintances day by day, is it right to be hypocritical about other people? You don't want to tell them what they really seem to be, you don't want to correct them. You don't want to reprove them. You want to improve them, not reprove them. So getting away from being yourself is, is such a thing as obligation anyway. But are we obliged not to be hypocrites to other people? We tend to say, oh, you look nice tonight. Oh, you look beautiful. Oh, you dress well. You may not like the color of the dress or anything. You may not like the shape, the style or anything, but you don't want to hurt their feelings. So what's more important, to have your feelings hurt or to hurt other people's feelings? Have you the right? Not the right, that we're getting to the idea of right and wrong all the time here. How that originated, a God is supposed to be, our God in Genesis, a good God, but he doesn't behave like one. And so we're faced with the dilemma of other people. Do we want other people to be images of ourselves, whatever the word is, even a better word, or are we glad about differences? The point is, that isn't it in the Bible that God created all men equal? That's a question. Is that the case? And what does it mean? And do we want all men to be equal? Isn't it important to have strong men and weak men and thinking men? You have all these fables, Aesop's fables and so on, which sort of has power and strength against cleverness, and there's a balance between them, which is going to come out on top on the whole. Would you say it would be better for you to be a strong man or a wise man, a clever man? A clever man, then, so are you a good man being clever, or are you a bad man being clever? And then are you being clever for yourself, for other people? The whole purpose, so being yourself is, I wasn't saying that's what one should be. I was saying that, it's a jumping off point. I think that's what philosophy and so on and lots of things are, the jumping off points. And the jumping off into what? Jumping off over a cliff, like the Chinese will say if you walk 1,000 miles, you've got to take a first step, and then you've got to keep the steps going, don't you? So perseverance. See, this is the stream of consciousness business. We just one idea leads to another idea. Or you've got 10 ideas in your head at the same time, which are leading to others. It's just a web that goes out and out forever. I would go in various directions from here, as I would say to Hugh, John's quite rightly puzzled about the idea of be yourself. What about you?
What is the answer for me? Being myself. I think and believe that, as you once said, I think, therefore I am. So I already have a sense of self. From there, what is self, and does it have tiers? And is it evolutionary? Is it developmental? In the same way that you've been asking questions and quoting and thinking about the book of Genesis and from God from one of the first touch points of man in that monotheistic type of perspective. I think one interesting book you once read, and I have yet to make my way through, is the one called God by something Niles. Yeah, I have it in my room actually now. I stole it.
Yes, it's a very interesting book.
And about the journey of what God was and is, and how he's, or she, or they, the anthropomorphization of God, and how they've developed over time. And so I think that's almost a correlation and a similar parallel to the development of man, in a sense of what we are and continue to be, and whether or not we can, as you've been asking the question and mentioning of our moralistic baselines and foundational traits that could hopefully be set, I think, as you know, one of your favorite ones is my rights end at the tip of another man's or woman's nose. I've always thought that one is quite good.
I think I'd like you in my class. Definitely.
I'm honored.
Yeah. So the book is very interesting insofar as it describes God from the facts we are being given in the Bible and so on. Is it's an evolution. There are various theologians who are asking about the nature of God, and is he a permanent, immovable, or is he evolving himself, developing? And that this book is sort of showing, from the texts that are describing him at various ages, when he's speaking to us. I mean, that's the only way we can know about him, by self-revelation, you might say, just as the only way we can know about you, except for your external appearance and your lavishness with money or whatever it is, it's only by your speaking your mind that we can discover who you are. But you may never speak your mind. I mean, if you're living in a socialist society or whatever, just again, the stream of consciousness idea. I'm thinking of Karl Marx in the British Museum, looking at all these books and getting his ideas about, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. Now he's saying this whole idea of property is theft, basically, and we ought to sort of be sharing it all out. How does the idea of property come into existence? Now, but he actually has got a friend, Engels. Engels got a father who runs a factory. The factory is these middle of the Industrial Revolution. It's exploiting the workers. So he's getting, his father getting profits from the workers. He's giving the money to Engels. Engels is giving the money to Karl Marx, and Karl Marx is sitting there in his library, going home and having a meal and the rest of it, talking about workers of the world unite, you've nothing to lose but your chains. So is there a basic selfishness there? I mean, a weird contradiction in his style of life, in his thoughts. Does it matter? Or is thoughts more important than anything? And important for whom? I mean, at the moment, people are complaining about the United States because it's got the First Amendment, freedom, and all these other things. And as opposed to communist societies which tell you to toe the line and so on and so forth over COVID-19 and any kind of questions like some things everybody agrees on. You stop at a red light, you could go on a green light. I mean, there are things that the First Amendment's got nothing to do with, John, really. None of us can practice the anarchy of a First Amendment, and yet we don't want the monarchy of one person. And Plato said, democracy, he said, the more people you've got in the government, the worse the government is. So what he wanted was an oligarchy, not a plutocracy, which is for the rich, not an aristocracy, which was the well-born, not a democracy, which was for everybody, not a kleptocracy, which is when you're stealing everything from everybody. He wanted a kind of wisdom group, an oligarchy, thinkers who are not self-interested, working for the good of society, so far as I understand it. Should one be happy and just laugh at the contradictions in Karl Marx, or should we be glad that we have such a thing as the British Museum, where he did all his work? Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I had grown up in a purely communist society, would I even have a sense of self, or would I even have dreams and ambitions, or is that a American or democratic kind of thing?
I think it's pretty natural to have dreams and ambitions, imagination, and discovery. For instance, discovering the new world. The Portuguese were at the end of Europe. There's a town in Portugal called Ceuta, and around about the 1450s or so on, they started going southward because all the spices that kept life decent in winter, when everything was dying off and the cattle were, you wanted spices, which I hate on the whole. But anyway, they came up the Silk Road. They had to pass through bits of Afghanistan and Samarkand and the Arabs and so on, get to the Venetians and then be sold at great prices and so on. So they wanted, Africa was definitely in the way. So they started going down the coast of Africa and Ceuta, this town, exploring, building up maps and getting eventually the Cape of Good Hope. And then they get round, and then the Portuguese develop an empire over there and getting spices from the Moluccas and so on, and become a very rich country for a very short time. And they have maps. Now they keep those maps secret. They don't want the Dutch to know them. They don't want the English to know them. They're their secret maps, like a lot of you do with weapons. You've got to be selfish, really. You might say every country is l'état c'est moi. I'm the thing that counts here. And so the whole notion of progress, I think we were talking about imagination, the discovery, perseverance, the idea that they were going down south, and then the Spanish, and to some extent the English and the French and so on, were going westward ho. Eventually, that Italian Columbus, working for the Queen of Castile, Catherine of Aragon's mother, got enough money to sort of get his 3 galleons going and get to the West Indies, and then things developed from there. So you've got the Portuguese going south, and the Spanish going westward, and the Pope saying, you're quarreling among yourselves. I'm going to divide the world into 2. You can have the East, you can have the West part. They had the Portuguese were tricky over Brazil, which is Portuguese speaking. They pretended to the Pope that the Portuguese that Brazil went out further than it did. But now the Pope, that brings up the whole question of religious power and so on and so forth, and Henry VIII and all kinds of other questions that come up. So I would say with regard to that book, it's just history in general, and curiosity, and trying to put things together and trying to understand things. And nowadays trying to go beyond the conqueror's idea of what happened to what really happened, which is a result of anthropology and archaeology and all these other ologies today. And thank God for them. How you two or me, discover what we're going to do with our lives is interesting. There's sort of this totality of imagination kind of divides itself out and helps things to progress. If everybody wanted to read Voltaire all the time, which is a very reasonable thing to do, they may think it's better than reading the Bible, which is not what I would agree with. Both of them, I think, are very important. So we don't want we don't want the whole thing to be lopsided. We're glad for diversity, aren't we? So when you're choosing your friends, do you choose friends that are like you, or do you choose friends that are unlike you? Are we out of time?
No, that's my fault. I have work things. Let me pause this. Sorry
you're
about
doing
that.
very well, Hugh.
Give me a sec.
Am I rambling too much?
No, you're perfect. This is fantastic. I know for a fact, John and anyone and myself especially I'm just so happy to be listening.
This is why we started a podcast, so that we can listen to people talk about whatever they felt like. But we are getting close to the end, and so if you want to like have some like parting thoughts, and if you want to like finish kind of like your train of thought and everything, please continue.
Yes, well, we have a lot more discovery to develop. I think Hugh was showing a program about the art of the day, and it was about nothing and something, and there were kind of two walls, and the artist was trying to discover what was between them.
Yeah.
Now it struck me that's an impossible idea. You can't have two walls when one is nothing. Somehow or other the one wall must just stop. But the thing that beyond is nothing, but it's not a wall. It's a bit I'm glad with the rainbow ideas and the rest of it that came out of it. And he was using his imagination about a non-existing thing, which is really one of the points that kept me awake all that night, is that when we're thinking of nothing, nothing can't exist, because once we start thinking about it, it exists as something, as an idea. So I just hope that, a philanthropic idea that the world is going to be united, that we're going to live in harmony. People talk about that. We're talking about the United States. It's impossible. Self-interest, national interest, ideas like pride and family and the rest of it are going to keep us with one-track minds, you might say, or two-track minds, but not altogether. So I think it's a wishful thinking to be an optimist. However, the Bible and pretty well all these other great books, of which I've got the highest regard, by the way, because I taught religions of the world, and that was because I was sympathetic to a lot beyond Christianity, Buddhism and so on and so forth, which my wife was very interested in, and I'm very sympathetic to the ideas, that that nirvana and all the other perceptions that they've got are worthwhile. All knowledge seems to be valuable, but whether we can come together or not is that within the possibilities of human nature. So should one be wishing for something that's possible, or should one be content to hope and just imagine what could be, but will it ever be? Are we going to be, will it ever be? Are we going to be pessimistic, or are we going to be optimistic? Are you an optimist or a pessimist, Hugh?
Depends on the day.
See, that's a very clever answer, really. Yeah, right, it does. And your state of mind, I mean, you've just been paid 2 days ago. So
Today?
I imagine, yeah. So you feel pretty optimistic.
Just happy to have a job.
A few more thousand in the bank.
God.
But you're planning on crypto coins being, the future. And at the moment, they've gone up to 52, they're down to 40, they're back to 48, So day to day, your happiness depends upon trivial things, or is it trivial?
And you, Daddy.
And me, and Mummy.
And Mommy,
Yes.
and friends, and John, and Julia.
Yeah.
It's a good life.
And instruments. Thank God for invention.
Thank God for music. What would we do sometimes?
I know.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, is John a good singer?
Very. Yeah, and he's a very, very talented musician.
Oh, well, you haven't got any musical instrument, but you would like to sing us a farewell song?
I'm actually a drummer, so I can beatbox a farewell song.
All right,
I don't think that really
set us up.
Well, I think that the drummers seem to be the basic for modern music. I'm a bit of a classicist, and but this whole business of it just goes on, and it's variable, and I admire the speed and the versatility of these drummers. They're fantastic. Really. Would you say they dominate modern music?
I think there's a bass line to most any song. Even Gregorian chants, the bass line is the chant itself and the beat. However, most songs these days are beatbox driven by John.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a cue. All right.
There's more movement in modern dance and modern songs. You tend to move around a bit. I would think it's a kind of full body activity. Not areas in operas. Singing as a diva and getting clapped for 10 minutes afterwards by people who don't know what the devil she was singing in Italian and so on and so forth. Well, that's about it, I think. I haven't got any conclusions, except I think, despite everything, being optimistic about everything, about things, and going for wishful thinking that things could be better.
You heard it here first.
Yes. Adieu, good friends. Adieu,
Adieu.
Adieu, adieu.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be here again next week. This is a podcast where we talk about pretty much anything and everything and have random guests on who are very, very cool, especially Dad.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right.
And that's the whole question of, is one better at age than in youth? Really, is it a good idea to be older? Or Shakespeare?
I think it happens regardless of our thinking of if it's a good idea or not.
I reckon you can't do much about it. So fate and nature. That's the whole business of nature. Nature and artificiality. But I could go on forever.
I think we should just say in vino veritas.
I'm being driven out of the door, without a penny in my pocket. Bye-bye.
Choose your
I love
fighter.
Bye, everybody. See ya. Peace.
Lately inspired. Fight.